Hi everyone, it's Miss Bolin again. We're going to talk about how to make a coil pot. So you're going to get your template that you already made with me, and you're going to get that out. You're also going to need coils. You're going to need a slab for your base. You're going to need a banding wheel. And you're going to need some slip, which I keep in a little ketchup bottle because they're nice. You're going to need something to trace to create your 3-inch base, which I have here already made, and you're going to need a variety of tools that I'll talk about as needed. So you're going to begin by taking your slab. I like to just go ahead and smooth both sides before I start on any slab, just to make sure that I smooth out any inconsistencies. And then I'm going to take my 3-inch base, and look, I have room for more than one. Should I team up with my neighbor? Absolutely, conserve clay. So I'm going to put my template on there for my 3-inch circle, and I'm going to use just a cutting tool to go around it. Okay, I can also cut one out for my neighbor, see how many I can Tetris in here. So I think maybe I could get 3, but I'm going to set that aside for my neighbor. Okay, so now I've got my 3-inch round base, and I need to get that on centered in my banding wheel. Centering is a very important concept in ceramics. If you work on a coil pot that is not centered, you're going to have a very unattractive piece that is very lopsided. So you're going to take a tiny little bit of slip, about that much, tiny little splash of it, and you're going to take your 3-inch round base, and you're going to look at the concentric circles, meaning the circles inside of circles, on your banding wheel, and you're going to place it so that the edge is the same distance or equidistant from the other circle. So if it was here, even only a couple millimeters off, that is a significant problem for the attractiveness and symmetry of your piece. So take a moment, look down at it, compare the edges, and then you're going to press lightly to get that attached. Okay, so that's beginning. You want it to be in the middle. You will then slip and score each coil on. You're going to start off with slip. It's called slipping and scoring for a reason. You put slip on first, then you score. So I've got slip. Notice that I'm twisting underneath here with my hand. This goes very quickly. Okay, I've just used this little rake tool, which is very convenient. You could also use a needle tool going around like this if you were in a pinch. Make sure that it kind of looks like hamburger meat. It should look like gross raw hamburger. You could also in a pinch use this guy and score that up. You can also use a rib tool like this. If you're going from very hard clay to very wet clay, such as leaving it overnight and starting it again, I would recommend using something that really digs into it, like one of these, rather than the shallower scoring rib. But I am just beginning, so and I'm going to put a little slip on this guy here, this little coil, and I'm going to score that up. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about where to place it. So I'm going to hold my template in my hand. I'm going to think about where that coil needs to be placed. So immediately I start coming out slightly. So I'm going to put it on top, but slightly overhanging. So I'm going to measure this out on here and just place it. Okay, when I get to the end, what I like to do, I'll do it so that the viewer can see, is horizontal cut so that they overlap slightly, and just score up the edge very slightly and just stick them together. Okay, so let's check this. That looks about right to me. That's nice. I'm dragging it around the edge, and that seems right. All right, so now it's on. I'm going to press it on. This is really critical. It gets the teeth of the two sides that you scored just fit into each other before you blend. So I'm holding on either side, and I'm just pressing it on. If you forget to do this stage, the chances of getting a crack that runs horizontally around your piece are significant. So I've pressed it on. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a blending tool. I'm rather fond of this one, but you can use anything. And I'm going to cut my hand on the outside, and I'm going to push the clay down onto the inside of the piece. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the outside just the same way. It kind of messes up the outside on the first couple coils, that's all right. What you're trying to do is move clay so that it kind of creates like a cup. So like if this is the bottom, you kind of want to just like around it on the top and the outside. So this is fine. Now I'm going to use this template to scrape off any excess on the outside and smooth it. See how nice that is? I'm holding my template on one side and I'm spinning the banding wheel. Look how nice and attached that is, not coming off. Okay, so I've done that. Now I'm going to do my next coil. So I'm going to go ahead and slip and score. And I'm going to take my next coil. I'm going to slip very lightly. You don't need a ton of slip when you're doing a wet coil onto a wet coil. Okay, and I know that this coil is getting slightly bigger. Okay, again, I'm cutting. You don't want all the ends of your coils to overlap. Like, I don't want this one to be having its finish in the same spot as the last one. Okay, so I'm going to measure that out. Is that about the right size? Yes, I'm checking around. It's a little bit big. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to adjust. So I'm going to slice off just a little millimeter there. Stick that back together. What's my next step? Pressing. So I'm going to hold my fingers on either side and lightly press that guy down on the one underneath it to lock the teeth. Checking it one more time just to make sure. Okay, and then I'm cupping my hand on the outside and I'm working that coil down on top of the one that I just put on the outside. I'm blending those coils. I do not want to still be able to see any of this noodle on top of noodle situation. All right, so I've done that. Now back to the template, and I'm going to drag my template around it. Look how pretty that smooths out. Okay, and I'm going to keep going like this until my third coil. That's already so slippy on top. I think I'm going to just put slip on my coil. Okay, so this one, each one's getting slightly larger. So I know this one's going to be slightly bigger than my last one, but not huge. Okay, make sure it's on there evenly. Checking. Yep, that's an appropriate use. All right, then I'm pressing. Press, 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 press. All the way around to bring those teeth together and really work it together. Then I'm blending. I'm going to cup on the outside. And I'm going to blend my outside really well so that it puts each of these coils on top of the other one really thoroughly. And then I'm going to spin it with my template, smooth out that exterior, and make it look awesome. At this point, I'm going to blow dry a lot. I don't want to get too much taller than 3 coils without blow drying significantly, because if I keep going, it's so wet it's just going to flop over. It's not going to hold for me. If I don't have the opportunity to blow dry at this stage, what I would do is I would take it off, I'd put it on a wooden board and bag the board. The wood will pull some of the moisture out of the clay. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So you can take your piece off using a metal rib. The metal ones work best. Anything that can just gently slide underneath. Okay, and you'll take that off at the end of each day and put it on your board, bag it. If you want it to dry a little bit, if it's getting too dry, bag it, but don't put the wooden board inside because the wood is always sucking a little bit of moisture out. The next day that I would come back, I would have this, it would be a little firmer. I would once again center it. So I've got this, I've got my banding wheel, and I'm going to eyeball where centered is. Okay, and I'm going to apply a little pressure on the inside with my thumb. It sometimes takes a moment to settle in and get centered, so if it starts to move, just put it back. Use a little bit of slip, not too much slip. Too much slip, it's going to slide all around.